in the NFC West. Again, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson here with you. Dennis, I came in, we talked immediately right after the game, and I think there are 100 things we could pull apart from this one, but the number one thing you said is, what happened to 4-minute offenses?
Yeah,
where did that go?
Yeah, and we talked about the ability to close out football games, right? I mean, that's something, at least against these divisional teams, you can't close a football game out. And there's an opportunity, right? Defense goes out and you have, with a 3rd and short, you stop them. 4th and inches, you stop them. Offense comes on the field, and all you really got to do is get a first down, right? Yeah. And you go 3 and out. I mean, that's when the urgency kind of, when you want to close out a game. I mean, a 4-minute offense, or how about just get 10 yards? You know, then you have a throw to Debo and it's high, and then you're off the football field, and now your defense has to come back and let's go back to the punt. I mean, again, special teams. You have an opportunity now just to, to pin the Seahawks down. Their last drive, they got to go 99 yards, 95 yards, whatever it is. But instead, you kick it in the end zone. And now your defense has to – you still got, what was it, something like 2.5 minutes left. And now in defense, you can't contain a quarterback. Geno Smith is not known for his scrambling ability, but he is a vet. He understands the coverages. He understands where he's going to have some run lanes. So you can't close the game out. And you had an opportunity against a divisional team to close the game out with a simple first down, 10 yards, and you're supposed to have all these different weapons. I know some guys aren't out there, but still, you got a pretty good offense, and you supposedly you have this fantastic play caller in Kyle Shanahan, but you go 3 and out when you have a time to kind of shut the game down.
Well, I just look at the fact that the 49ers defense played so well in this game. The 13 points allowed, and 3 of those were off of the short field interception that Seattle had turned into a 57-yard field goal.
Sure.
To cut it to 7-6.
After losing 9 yards, by the way, after picking it off.
Yeah, you got to score more than 17 at home against a team that's as banged up and changing personnel as the Seattle Seahawks. So I put today firmly on the offense. And, the defense got the big stop, turnover on downs. They stop a 3rd and 1 and a 4th and 1 to basically end the game if the offense can pick up another first down. And the key question there in that series is 2nd and 11. And you mentioned it, the 49ers throw the football on 2nd and 11. If you run it, maybe you're looking at 3rd and 8, 3rd and 6, something like that. But you're also, at that point, taking a little bit more time off the clock and or forcing the Seahawks to burn another timeout. So I think that was the play that felt a little bit out of place. The
and
second
you and I looked at each
throw.
other in the press box. I looked over at you, and I think I went, psst. What are they throwing it for right there? Like, keep the clock moving. Make them burn timeouts. You're ahead of the 2-minute warning. Also, the challenge that didn't go the 49ers' way. You lose one more challenge, which is no big deal at that point, really. But the timeout that gets burned, not that it would have mattered, I don't think, all that much, but you left Seattle a whole lot of time. And just real quick, you want to feel bad, even worse about how things went. I mean, Geno Smith dropping a night like Steph Curry on you has to sting. Geno Smith after the game said, quote, "I was out there smiling on that last drive, walking on the field, kind of felt like angels in the outfield, like somebody was rubbing my shoulders the whole time, and I just felt like there was no pressure." That is the worst thing you could hear from a quarterback who's coming out there trying to drive 80 yards in 2.5 minutes to win a game.
Yeah, and again, I mean, it's you get a sack in that drive, but I don't know if it's prevent or what's going on with the defense, but they
were getting beat underneath. It seemed like on every play,
and it just feels like let them catch everything underneath and we'll make a tackle. But then that's 10 yards down the football field. Then you're in a red zone, and then now you're playing zone coverage or man coverage, and Geno's a smart quarterback. He understands what he's going to get, and he sees that he has an opportunity now to run the ball. I mean, it was 3rd and 15, and he runs for 16 yards or something like that. So he understood what the defense was giving him, and he's a veteran, and you have to players make plays, and he made 2 big, huge plays in that 80-yard drive, and defense couldn't get off the football. Fred Warner had a chance to get a pick, wasn't there, but you have an opportunity to make some plays, and close the football game out, and that's what even though your offense kind of sputters that last 2 minutes, but you have an opportunity as a defense to get after it and close. That's what a great defense is. And I don't know if it's because Nick Bosa's not in there with the pass rush or whatever it is, but you got to close football games.
You do, and it's the 3rd division loss, as Copes mentioned, but it's the 3rd division loss in games where they've blown a lead. And it was the final possession for Seattle to take it in on the Geno Smith 13-yard touchdown run in the closing seconds. But you look at the game against the Rams early in the year, week 3, 49ers have the lead in that one. They can't hold it. Arizona here in early October, and the 49ers blow that lead, give Arizona life. We talked about it on the pregame, the fact that that completely flipped Arizona's season, and now Seattle able to come in here as banged up and depleted as they are, and the 49ers to just not – they could have won this game, and it wouldn't have been good, I think, much in the similar vein as to the game in Tampa, but you lose this game, and it feels just all-out catastrophic. 5-5.
Fourth place.
Last in the division. You look at the conference standings now, and they're 10th, so they're a couple of games out of the 7
Tell
for
me
the
who's
wild
right.
card.
Tell me who they're right behind. I want to know who they're right behind, because this is going to make you feel even worse, I'm sure.
Well, they're 10th. Seattle's 9 now, and the Rams are 8. So
who's 11? Give me 11.
11 is Tampa Bay, 4 and 6.
See, none of this feels good.
So look how close you are to that being flip flopped if last week's game goes a different way. Now the reality is they still have a shot. The schedule's going to get Buffalo beat Kansas City this afternoon. That's coming up in 2 weeks. And Green Bay did come back and win at Soldier Field against the Bears. So you look at where the Packers are right now, 7-3, with a massive couple of games here on the road these next couple of weeks, which are going to determine whether the rest of December is still worth fighting for, honestly, for this team when they get back here on the 8th against the Bears and then the Rams on Thursday Night Football.
I probably shouldn't. Go ahead, Dennis.
In division, they're 1-3?
They're 1-3. They still play the Rams here.
And Arizona, last game of the season.
Yeah. Exactly.
I should probably cancel that flight. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627 is the number to call. We want to hear from you, 49er fans. Is it as catastrophic as it feels? I mean, 5-5, fourth place. It doesn't feel like a playoff team. 17 points today, one of the lowest outputs of the season. And JD said, we're going to put this on the offense entirely. You got to score more than 17 against the Seattle defense. And again, the 49ers only 277 total yards of offense. They were outgained by 12 yards. We'll make that the stat of the game, sponsored by Poppy Bank, located throughout California. Poppy Bank is here to help you hit your financial goals. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Larry Krueger joins us, Niners Nightly, weeknight 6 to 7, The Krug Show, as well as a member of our pre- and post-game coverage. Krug, this was not a fun one.
No, this was not a fun game to be at, for sure. And I mean, the only thing I'll say is that it's not like half the team can be like, it's the defense, it's the offense. No. The defense allowed an 11-play, 80-yard drive at the end, but the offense failed as well. I mean, the Niners got the ball back with inside of 4 minutes to play. And you got to be able to pound out a couple first downs. They ran Christian McCaffrey on first down. They picked up one first, right? They ran McCaffrey for 11 yards on first down. Then they ran him, and they had the Seattle hold penalty. So they ran him again on first down, and he got tackled for a loss. And it was 2nd 11. Purdy went to Debo. The throw was off. 3rd and 11. He went to Jennings for 5, and they punted. So it's like you have to be able to get a first down or two at the end of games somehow, some way, and they couldn't put it away. So the offense can point to themselves. The defense can point to themselves. Shared blame today. And did they miss Kittle? Sure, they missed Kittle. They missed Ayuk, but defensively, they had no answers there. And then the Bosa injury. I mean, here, once again, we talked a lot about the trade deadline. Man, the Niners really needed some defensive end help. We got what we need. Okay. Bosa was dinged up. He was playing way too many snaps, and then he barely, I'd be shocked if he goes next week. He barely could get up onto the dais to speak to us, and he could barely get down. And I asked him, I said, Nick, you're not looking too well. He's like, no, I'm not feeling too good either. So
now, quickly, just to confirm, this is the other hip, right? We knew he had a hip pointer that he was dealing with and had some limited practice and missed some practice this week, but did Kyle say it was the other hip?
And Pam Oliver also, Pam Oliver referred to an oblique injury at halftime.
So he's reaching up here, because I saw the sack. His second sack is when it happens. And by the way, I don't think any QB pressures today. 2 sacks and no pressures relative to the 14 he had the first time they played. But he popped up and immediately was checking himself. And then he goes back down again for one more play and then basically limped off the field.
Yeah, he looked like he was in a lot of pain. He wasn't moving real well. So we'll see. We'll see. But, yeah, I mean, Leonard Floyd stepped up, had a big sack late in the fourth quarter. I thought that was going to be maybe the difference. But
Yetur Matos had one.
Yetur Matos, but 2nd and 14, Gino scrambled against zone. And then on the touchdown, he scrambled against man. And they turned their head on the quarterback, and he runs it in 20-17. Got an absolute backbreaker for the 49ers because this may be the loss that keeps them out of the playoff picture. Now their thoughts got to be they got to win some of the games that we don't think they're going to win. They've got to beat Detroit or Buffalo or Green Bay or probably 2 out of those 3. Realistically, if they're going to go to the playoffs.
But all 3 of those teams won today and looked like contenders. I mean, Buffalo put up 30 for the first time. The Chiefs defense has given up 30 points in like 30 consecutive games or something like that. You have the Packers, who with an injured Jordan Love rushes for a touchdown. They come back and they win, even though it was a field goal attempt at the end for the Bears. Had a chance to come back and win it. They did not. And then you mentioned the Lions, 52-6 today over the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Niners are on another planet, those 3 teams.
Yeah, no, I mean, Detroit. I mean, I just watched Detroit last week against Houston. Goff threw 5 picks. They had all kinds of adversity.
Down
and
16 at half.
They still beat them.
Yeah.
They still beat them. And Detroit, it's going to take an awful lot to beat Detroit this year.
Yeah, they're on a different level right now. The way they're playing with so much confidence, and I think it comes from their head coach. But my question is, the 49ers offense, I mean, what happened to the Debo? I mean, it seems like every play. I mean, if he's running the ball, defenses are cued on it. He's not running any more of those sweeps or those zip sweeps, whatever they call them, and he's not really getting separation down the football field. I mean, is it the defense? Are they keying on Debo, or is he just having one of those off seasons?
He's not a great route runner. Normally he doesn't have great numbers this year against man coverage. And if you play man coverage, he has a hard time stringing together moves and gaining any kind of separation. He's not really making any kind of big plays or any kind of chunk yardage plays when he runs the ball. So there's not a lot there. I mean, he looks like he's regressed a little bit. And then, Ricky Pearsall, I thought this was going to potentially be a big day for Ricky Pearsall. Did he get shut out? Or
he did. 2 targets, no catches.
Yeah, so he got shut out. So that's, without Ayuk and no Kittle, man, you really are starting to need to get production out of rookies, and that's a dangerous area to be in, and that's where they're at.
It's the passing offense in this game. 146 yards passing in this one for the 49ers, and Purdy, 21 of 28, the 1 touchdown, the interception. I mean, and you look at Jauan Jennings. I mean, Jauan Jennings was an absolute stud in this game. 10 catches, 91 yards. He's fighting for first downs. It's 3rd and Jauan. But other than Jennings, the 49ers got nothing.
Can't do it himself.
In the passing game.
No.
Nothing in the passing game.
That was about it.
Jennings wanted no part of the media, by the way, afterwards. He had a whole group of people at his locker.
Yep.
He was getting dressed, and he, said
I have the exact quote. I don't have nothing to say today, guys.
Yeah. And then the PR staff came over and tried to be like, hey, you're one of the big stars of the game. You're one of the big players of the game. You could tell there was a little bit of a negotiation going on between Corey Rush and Jauan at his locker, and Jauan won that one. So, he didn't have anything to say.
How often does the player not win that one if they decide not to talk? I mean,
Well, it's the second time also.
It is, yeah.
I mean, he did. It was the same thing in L.A. against
After
the Rams
he had the big
after
game
he
and
had
they
the
lost,
massive game and they blew the lead late. It was a very similar. He did not speak after that game.
To me, that is when you don't speak. You don't speak when you're huge and the team lost and you don't want.
I'm okay with it.
That's When you really got to speak is when, you were the GOAT, and maybe your team didn't, your team won, but you were the GOAT and you got to sometimes answer the music. But after a team loss and you're huge and it's all like, you don't, what are you going to talk about how great you were?
Yeah.
It's just an awkward spot for a player.
Yeah, the other quick thing on Trent Williams was not moving well today, and Trent Williams was not moving well in the locker room, and he had said that he came pretty close to not playing at all in this game today. I know he thought he could grind it out. If he's out there, he needs to play at a certain level. But, I mean, and we haven't also something to get into the penalties in this one. The penalties absolutely wrecked.
Oh, it was bad.
That was the story.
Niners.
I mean, Shanahan said it in the post. He's like, the penalties. I mean, go back and look.
9 for 54, and in crucial situations over and over again.
Yeah. And you know what? On paper, that was an area that favored the 49ers. The Seahawks came in 3rd in the NFL in penalties with like 74. The Niners had only made like 50 penalties all year. And in this game, the penalties burned them. They absolutely burned them. The one drive, they had, 3 penalties and a sack that derailed the drive. So they had a couple different drives that were derailed by penalties, and you don't get that many opportunities.
And that slow bleed out at the end of the first half. It took us 54 minutes to get from kickoff to the 2-minute warning. It took 33 minutes to finish the 2-minute warning to the end of the first half.
Wow.
It was messy. A lot of people are checking in on both the YouTube chat, the text line, and on the phone lines. I see you guys hanging on the line. Rocky, Mike, Renee, Mark, BJ, we'll get to all you at 808 KNBR 415 808-5627 is the number to call. Lots of people saying the biggest miscue here was not playing more of J.P. Mason. 3 total carries since Christian McCaffrey's returned. He's gone for 5, 8, and 5. We saw him on 2 carries today, but maybe not enough. And I don't know that it's the offensive line. Brock was running for his life, or if McCaffrey is being used like he's 100%. He's not totally, but we'll talk more about this one. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson, Larry Kruger's here as well. More to come after the Niners fall to the Seahawks 20-17 on the Sports Leader.
Brutal. The most important time in the game for me to be out there, I wasn't able to be, so I hate missing time. That's why I pushed through last week, and hopefully it's not too long.
Back here live from Levi Stadium, Adam Copeland, the Super Bowl champion Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with us, and Larry Krueger hanging out. 808 KNBR is the number to call. We will get to some of your thoughts from the listeners. Let's get you the difference maker of the game, sponsored by Benjamin Moore Paints. Experience the Benjamin Moore retail difference at our independently owned authorized retailers today or at benjaminmoore.com. And by Abundant Life Weight Loss, call 925-594-7110 to start your journey today. Krug, we'll start with you. Difference maker of the game in this one. I mean, we can say offense simply, usage of the backfield. But what do you point to if you were going to highlight one thing that changed the course of this game?
The Niners could not cover and have not covered Jackson Smith-Njigba. I mean, they targeted him 11 times. He caught 10 balls for 110 yards. They never covered him all day. So I think that one stands out to me. Also, I want to give credit where credit's due. I mean, Seahawks can run the ball, and Kenneth Walker 3.9 a carry, but Geno ran for 7.3 a carry. He threw for 221. He ran for 29. He did have the one interception, but he also had the game-winning touchdown run. So Geno, I think, was incredible. And then defensively, give the Rams or give the Seahawks a little credit. They, at the beginning of the year, had Jerome Baker and Terrell Dodson, and they hated those guys. And they traded them out. And they got Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight started today, the rookie from UTEP. Those two guys had 23 combined tackles between the duo.
I'd say that's a difference maker. Certainly,
that is a difference
certainly
maker.
On the ground. Let's go out to the phone lines. Rocky's in Vallejo. Rocky, what's up, man? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, what's up, guys? This is very therapeutic for me. It's a great show. Thank you for that. The one thing I wanted to highlight is Jake Brendel, man. This guy, the last couple of years, has been average. This year, he's really regressed. He got the holding penalty. He gets blown up by Reed consistently. It's time to put Feliciano, let him take over at the center role. He's basically a backup center. He had two decent years. This year he's regressed. You got to put him on the bench. Sorensen, the defensive coordinator, I mean, horrible calls on the last series. He went man on the last play. He had no corner blitz from Lenore. Lenore can blitz like a shark. If you have him, he always has. He hardly ever blitzes, but if he does blitz, it's very predictable. It's Fred Warner up the middle. Campbell had another bad game. Campbell looked slow again. He had a decent game the last couple of weeks, but this game he looks slow again. So we need Greenlaw back. We can't wait. Feliciano needs to take over at center. Those are the personnel moves I would make, and let's fire Sorensen and bring in Brandon Staley. Since Brandon Staley is the one that wanted Floyd, he wanted Floyd, who had a horrible game in my opinion. Let's see what Brandon Staley got. Because this guy he's not cutting it.
Appreciate the call. I appreciate the call, Rocky. Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to coaching stuff like that, and it's simple always as people just say, well, fire that coach, move that coach. We don't like that coach. The same was said early on in the tenure of D'Amico Ryans. People were not happy with D'Amico early on. I know then they had
And
Steve
Robert
Wilkes,
Saleh.
And Robert Saleh early on. Then they have Steve Wilkes and all that, and they move on because obviously it didn't work. Sorensen's been here for a while, right? This is a voice and a guy that they're familiar with. I don't know that it's as simple as play calling. I don't know that it's as simple, Larry, as you mentioned during the break here. You said really what's happening here and why you don't have hope or why it feels like there's not as clear of a path, and we know that now because of the record to the postseason, is the injuries. Bosa's not going to play next week. I'd be shocked if Bosa played this week. Then you've got a couple of short ones. You're going to play another team in Buffalo coming off of a bye week. Greenlaw is probably still a couple of weeks away. Talanoa Hufanga, somebody you were hoping was going to come back this year. It's been an injury-laden team for a lot of this season, and the key players you're relying on are just not on the field right now. And the ones that have been have not played to the level that we're used to them playing.
Well, and you're leaning, you don't have Greenlaw, so you're leaning more on Warner. Warner's getting worn down. He only had 3 tackles today. He's getting worn down. I mean, you don't have the same kind of quality depth. You've had a defensive end. So Nick Bosa's played 86% of the snaps, 10% higher than he's ever played in his career. He's now worn down. I asked Sorensen on Tuesday or Thursday, I guess it was. I said, Nick, is it time? What's the plan? Because you're playing Elliott or Leonard Floyd, right, and Bosa, 10% more than they really ever have played in their career, and definitely 10% more snaps than they played a year ago. What's the plan to get those guys to January? And he's like, hey, well, we want to sub them out, but we want to win games. Well, you know what? That's the predicament. You're not. That's the bottom line. You're not deep enough, so you're going to have to play Floyd and Bosa more snaps. And guess what happens? They're not as effective in those snaps. I mean, it's no different than giving a pretty good outfielder 500 at bats instead of 350.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's get back out to the phone lines here at 808 KNBR. Mike is in San Francisco. He's been waiting a bit. Mike, what was your biggest issue with today's game? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, Coach. Hey, JD. And
Dennis and Larry, that's who else is here. There's a lot of us, I know. What's up, bro?
It's hard to keep track.
Dennis, don't forget Dennis.
Dennis. Thank you, Larry. I just wanted to say that going into, like, the argument for today's game, I saw that the defense would be let down upon because defense did call a prevent or zone defense towards the end of the game, which was kind of everybody was sitting at home watching, like, why are they doing this? Why not play bump and run or man to man or, try to win those line of scrimmage? But what I want to say is that I stuck my neck out for Kyle Shanahan before anybody else online or whatnot. And I'm just not sure he's the right guy anymore. I'm just wondering what your guys' thoughts are on his inability to control the end of the game situation.
Appreciate the call, Mike. I mean, this is something that Kyle's been criticized for and will continue to be criticized for until the end of game and the late and close stuff kind of changes. For me, this was less about the end of the game and more about the inability to score more than 17 points. I mean, even last week, we talked about the offense won that game for them last week, and I know people have been critical of his play calling. They outgained the Buccaneers. They doubled them up, 400-something to 200-something last week. They've consistently outgained their opposition. They get to the red zone at the third highest rate of any team in football. They're a top 10 offense in terms of yards per game. They just don't finish in the red zone. Today, they were 2 for 3 in the red zone. They were decent on third down today, but they did not result in a whole lot of points.
And today, they didn't get into the red zone a lot.
They
stalled
6 times in the last 2 weeks now. That's problematic.
Yeah, they stalled at midfield because of penalties, and you had the turnover that gave Seattle the short field. I mean, too often though, I think this season it's been a scenario where the offense hasn't done enough as the game goes on, and then the defense has to get the stop in the fourth quarter. And sometimes they can get one, and they wind up like tonight needing 2, and they can't get the second one. Sometimes they've needed a couple, and they've let up. Tampa Bay, they're able to get the stop, which allows the offense to go down and win the game. But I just think, to me, too many times this season, there have been opportunities where the defense has played well enough over the course of the game to where if the offense can just punch it in, score more points, a touchdown instead of a field goal here, an extra couple minutes on the clock there, they probably have enough to hold on in more than one of these games, and then we're having a completely different conversation, even, Dennis, if you've got a bad loss or two in there.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, I mean, have teams kind of figured out, defensive coordinators, have they figured out kind of how to scheme against this offense? Because this is back-to-back weeks. I mean, we're used to seeing a Kyle Shanahan offense score 30 points, right? I mean, and now these...
Especially with CMC available.
Right, and it just seems... I mean, J.P. Mason, I mean, he was running the ball well early in the football season. So, I mean, it just makes me wonder, have defensive coordinators kind of figured out kind of, what's going on with the Kyle Shanahan offense and how to defend it? Because, like, I'll bring up Debo. I mean, those jet sweeps used to get 10 yards a pop. Remember those days?
He might have one of those this year. He might have one.
They're all tackle for losses now. I mean, it's like once it happens, it's over.
I'm getting kind of sick of that play, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and they run it, at least twice in a football game.
2-3 times a game.
Yeah, and defenses are hip to it. So it makes me wonder, I mean, you got to get more creative or whatever it is. It just seems like 30 points used to be the norm. Right? It used to be the norm for this football team to score 30 points, and you're not seeing it anymore.
They're not getting explosives. I mean, they didn't get today, for example, they got hardly any explosive plays.
There's no big chunk plays, no.
And there's not a lot of speed. I mean, if you're not going to use Garendo, who's got 4.3 speed, and Cowing is a non-factor, basically it's Christian McCaffrey, and the other weapons are not very fast. They're not very dynamic. I mean, 17 points at home against the Seahawks defense is not getting it done.
The biggest play of the day was Brock Purdy's 22-yard completion to Jauan Jennings on the second offensive possession. That was when Brock took it in for the 10-yard run. to make it 7-3. Biggest play of the day, the 122-yarder. I don't think they had another play even close to that. I'm looking at the night. It looks like 13 was the next biggest single play for the 49ers, and it was Brock, a Brock Purdy run.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, look at their receivers. Debo had one 11-yard play. Juszczyk didn't give him an explosive. Sauerbert didn't. Pearsall did nothing. Cowing did nothing. So, I mean, you got rookie receivers that aren't ready to step into the spot. You got no Ayuk. You got Debo, who looks like a shell of himself. You had no Kittle. And so it's like all of a sudden Jauan Jennings take the game over, and he tried. You know, I mean, they targeted him 11 times.
He had 10 catches.
He had 10 catches. He had that amazing play on third down where he caught it at 3rd and 5 and ran for the first down. I mean, he is awesome, but they need something more dynamic with these weapons.
Yeah, McCaffrey had one 10-yard catch. He had one 11-yard run. Those were his two longs. Jauan Jennings, a 22-yard reception. That was a long. And again, yards after the catch, just not something that have been there this year for the Niners. And that's part of the dynamic offense and the explosive offense we've come used to seeing. Now, Dennis, you said if defense is caught up, part of it too, 3 of their last 4 opponents have been coming off of a bye in 3 of their last 4 games. That's 2 weeks to prepare for this offense for the Seahawks, and 2 weeks last week or 2 weeks ago, I should say, prior to taking on Tampa. I mean, teams are now having more opportunities to game plan. It doesn't seem like they're following the motion quite as much. I know that the late play calling has been problematic for people, but they really shouldn't be in this situation. 808 KNBR is the number to call. All you guys who are waiting on the phone lines, we will get to all of you. I see you guys hanging out there. Renee, Mark, Yard Doctor, Jeff, and Nick. More to come. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson. Krug, thanks for coming by, man.
Thanks, guys.
We'll catch you later. Make sure you're listening to Kruger on Niners Nightly, weeknights 6 to 7, and the Krug Show. More to come here, and more of your calls as the Niners fall to Seattle 20-17. Only here on the Sports Leader.
we just ran through the game, and we had plenty of opportunities to win that game, take it over, and we failed at it. And he obviously took ownership for himself as well, and we all did in the locker room. And we're all not satisfied with how we played, but he said, next game is up. We got to watch the film, get better from this, and focus on Green Bay.
Focus on Green Bay, who got a win today over the Chicago Bears. That was the voice of Brock Purdy, Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you here. We are streaming twitch.tv/thesportsleader, KNBR.com, the KNBR app, and phone lines are open for you guys at 808-KNBR. Hop on the couch. We'll do a little therapy session here after the 49ers fall 20-17 to the Seahawks and to 5-5 on the season now, in fourth place in the NFC West after falling 1-3 in the division. Let's get you a Protecting the Quarterback segment sponsored by Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Protect your community and apply for your new career in law enforcement at cocosheriff.org today, and by Planet Orange, effective, eco-friendly pest control. In terms of protecting the quarterback, I'll say this: Brock was he only sacked twice today? Was it one time or two times? He got sacked twice for 13 yards. But my thought was Brock was not protected well at all today. It seemed like he ran for his life early on. A couple of times when he ran for that touchdown, it was a more decisive run. One point, he got a couple of plays before that, he got pressed out of the pocket, slipped down, didn't find the end zone. But I felt even on the 40-yard run, the 40 yards rushing today where he looked pretty damn good, none of those were designed. None of those were ideal. He was looking downfield, had very little time to throw. And at times when he did throw, he was off balance or out of the pocket. So I thought in general the offensive line, and maybe that's to Trent Williams being banged up, just did not look all that good today.
Yeah, and he's been doing that the whole season, right? I mean, yeah. It looks like he's not. I mean, last week against Tampa in the second half, he was throwing kind of, 3 steps, throw it. But this whole football season, he's been kind of running around. I mean, more than we've seen. And he's got a couple of key first downs. Today you saw a couple of key first downs with his legs. But you don't want your quarterback running down the middle of the football. He took some shots today. The one on the sidelines there where you kind of almost did a flip there. So, I mean, you don't want your quarterback running. And I don't know, does he trust his offensive line, or does he just see an opportunity to run the football? So he's been running the whole entire football season.
Let's go out to the phone lines at 808-KNBR. Let's go to Renee. Renee in Stockton's been waiting for a while. Wants to talk about the running game. What's up, Renee? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
We've been better. How about you, Renee?
Good. Just leaving the game right now a little upset. I just think that the offense looked very blah, and with Purdy running, we got to be careful because we've had that in the past where our quarterbacks go down because of this offensive line. So I think we need to kind of be creative with the offense. Also, too, Mason was a leading rusher before CMC came back, and CMC has been back for a couple weeks now, and we're just going straight to CMC. We need to get Mason more involved, either put CMC out as a wide and put Mason in the back. Just some creative plays to get things going, because we could have had that game today, but it just was, they didn't want it enough. So thank you guys, and I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, Renee. This was just a frustrating one all around. In terms of the running game and talking J.P. Mason there, maybe they do need to use him more. I told you 3 total carries since McCaffrey's come back. One of them last week, he just went 1 for 5 yards. Today he had 2 of them, and he was in there for back-to-back plays, an 8-yard run and a 5-yard run. Again, this is what he was doing, averaging 5 yards a carry. Again, that's just 3 carries. You go small sample size, but you had a pretty damn good sample size early in the year. I thought maybe last week they were trying to nurse a little bit of that AC joint that he had come back a couple of times and had that aggravated, but I don't know that change of pace is necessarily what you're looking for. We talked about that pregame, or if it's more about offensive line play and a lack of burst for McCaffrey. He may not be 100% right now, but they're using him like he is.
They are, and I think you look at that number. I mean, we were talking to Greg Papa on the pregame, and he was saying, hey, Kyle wants to run it 30-plus times and believes that they can do it, whether it's CMC or Mason or you mix in Garendo, you factor out the Brock Purdy runs, and the 49ers only ran it 22 times in terms of plays that plays where they wanted to run it. That's not even close. I mean, you're talking 70% of what your target is in this game, and it's not like they were having a lot of success throwing the ball, as we mentioned, unless they were looking to really get it to Jauan Jennings and letting him pick up a big first down by dragging 8 Seahawks with him. On that one, it seemed like.
Yeah, and when you have a player like Christian McCaffrey, you want him in the football game, right? And he is probably the best running back in the national football. At least he was last season. But we talked about this here on the show. I mean, once he, when he was injured, JP, he stood in there and he became, top 5 rusher in the NFL. How were you going to use him once Christian McCaffrey came back?
The answer is not at all.
Not at all. and I think the caller's right. You got to get creative and get them both in the game. Or, you want to get Christian McCaffrey in there, get him some lather, get him used to, get him flow the game and all that good stuff. But you have a pretty dang good running back also on the sideline. And he's done well for you. So as far as, CMC goes, you want him in the football game because he does what he does. But you do have, some depth at least in the running back room that you can get creative with and use a little bit more.
808 KNBR is the number to call. Let's go back out to the phone lines. Mark is in San Francisco. Mark, you're on the Sports Leader. Mark dropped off. Let's Mark, if you give us a call back, we'll get you back on. If you're if that was accidental or intentional, then you got to get back in line. What's that, Kyle? What you got? Accidental. Okay, Mark, give us a call back. It's Kyle's fault back at the station. Let's go to Yard Doctor. Yard Doctor, you're on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, hey, I'm with you. I'm with Renee on this thing. I got a bone to pick with Kyle. I think he overused McCaffrey too much last year. You didn't even know Mason was on the team. I figured, he figures Mason's a rookie and he's trusts McCaffrey. And now it's the same thing. I mean, look at McCaffrey. It's almost like it's preseason for him coming back off that injury. And they're just overworking him. If he would use them both, I do believe between them they'll average 6-7 yards a carry. That's all I got to say.
I appreciate the call. Thanks so much for calling, Yard Doctor. Yeah, well, the thing is J.P. Mason was on the team last year, and I want to say he played in 16 games or something. This is, by the way, his third year. He played in all 17 games last season, only had 40 rushing attempts for a total of 206 yards, 43 attempts a year before in 16 games played. So it's his third year, but remember, he was supposed to be the third string back this year. He was third string last year. It was supposed to be Elijah Mitchell, and Elijah Mitchell out for the season. So I know you lean on that and you go, well, I think he overused McCaffrey last year. You went to a Super Bowl, and the guy won Offensive Player of the Year. This is what superstar running backs are capable of doing. Nobody's going to say Saquon Barkley's being overused this year. They're a running team, and that's what teams do that run the ball effectively. And you look at the team this year and go, well, you spent the money on him. You gave him the extension. He's a Hall of Fame caliber and talented player. This guy's going to be one of the best in the league. You waited for him this long to come back. I think there's a ramp-up period that's just not going to look the same as we last left our heroes in Las Vegas last year.
Well, and as much as you love Jordan Mason, as to Dennis's point, he's not Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
And, I mean, you get Christian McCaffrey, you want to get him on the field as much as you possibly can because you believe that it creates significant advantages either for him to make plays or others to make plays. Now, could it be more than 2 carries for Jordan Mason? I suppose, especially when it's 6.5 yards a tote. But I don't think we're really talking about that many more carry. We might be talking about 5 instead of 2, but that's a net difference of 3 here in the grand scheme of things. Is that going to dramatically change the trajectory of a game? I don't think so.
Let's get back into Mark, because Mark was waiting for a long time and he dropped off. Mark in San Francisco, you're on the Sports Leader.
Oh, hi, guys. Thanks for taking my
What's
call.
up, Mark?
I have a couple of things on the offense I want to talk about, and then I want to get your opinion on the defensive coordinator. It felt like Shanahan in the towards the end of the game, they go into that zone prevent mode, which you would think with the way that has not worked that they would have learned that that's not good. That's one thing. Debo, the jet sweep needs to go. It's not fooling anybody. If he's lucky, he gets 1 yard. So Shanahan's got to come up with something more creative as far as that goes. And then the 12 seconds left, they got the ball back. If I was a coach, I'm throwing it deep, sending everybody, hoping for a pass interference call. You either get a catch or maybe a pass interference call. Then you try for a field goal or maybe go the whole way. He throws it down the middle, runs out the clock. I didn't understand that. Okay, so there's that. And then the last thing, and then I'm out, is the defensive coordinators we've had in the last, the last 2 or 3. DeMarco Ryans was incredible. That was the best defense the Niners had in at least 10 years. We lose our coordinators after every championship game. Why are the Niners organization not able to keep their defensive coordinators? Kansas City has kept theirs. What Why is that?
Well, I think the answer is a fairly simple one. Mark, I appreciate the call. The answer is that no team can keep a coach if he's being offered an elevated position. So if a coach is a defensive coordinator wants to be a head coach, Robert Saleh wanted to be a head coach. He interviewed for the job. The Niners can't stop it. The other example of that is that Mike McDaniel was an offensive assistant. That was the title. Then they moved him to the title of offensive coordinator so that he couldn't be plucked away. Once he was the O coordinator, then he started being offered head coaching jobs. He gets the job in Miami. It's an elevation, so he's allowed to go interview for the job and leave. You can't leave your job without an offer from somebody else. The other situation is Steve Spagnuolo has previously been a head coach. He's the D coordinator for Kansas City.
And he struggled with it and acknowledged he didn't like it.
He didn't like it, doesn't want to be that. He wants to be a defensive coordinator. He's also a much older guy than DeMeco Ryans.
Gave it a shot, made his money off it, and likes the role now.
These are opportunities that these guys are getting. And by the way, the Niners have been compensated with draft picks for each and every one of these guys who have left. And I would dispute the defense under DeMeco Ryans was any better than the one in 2019 that Robert Saleh had. I think the best defense the Niners have had in the last 10, 15 years was 2019. The defensive line has not been nearly as good. The secondary probably wasn't as good as this one technically is, but I think the 2019 defense and the 2021 defense probably the two best that they've had.
I'd probably go 19 and 22, not last year, but the year before. They were
the NFC Championship year
against Philly. We didn't obviously that game was wrecked because of the Brock Purdy injury, but I think that was even go back to the divisional game against Dallas. That game ended up 19-12. Like that, they had a dominant win against Seattle. Like to me, that team when they got it going in the middle of that year, and they ran the table to go 13-4. I think that one I'd put up there with 19 above last year.
And maybe a counter to what Mark is saying. Show me another team that's been to 3 NFC championships in the last 8 years with 3 different defensive coordinators or 3 championship games. That doesn't happen. I mean, to say, well, why can't they hold on to them? Because other teams want them, and it's an elevated position. They get the opportunity, and that's what those guys wanted to do. If Saleh wanted to stay, he could be here. If DeMeco wanted to stay, he would be here. But that's not what they want.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these coaches, I mean, that is your goal, right? I mean, I would think that would be eventually your goal.
It's the top of the mountain.
Yeah, I mean, you want to be a head coach and run your own team because you got your own ideas and how a team should be ran and how you want that challenge because that's why you get into coaching.
DeMeco's been good at it.
DeMeco's been very good. And so I think it's, unless you don't want to be a head coach, I think you can stay in one of these elevated positions. But I think most of these coaches, that's the goal. I mean, you're an assistant, then whatever it works to get up to become a coordinator. I mean, you're interviewing for other teams so you can be a head coach. So that's your goal.
And one other one to look at, Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions, interviewed for numerous positions last year and decided he didn't want to be a head coach last season, decided he wanted to come back, and now look what they're doing in Detroit. Going to be hard-pressed I'd be hard-pressed to believe he will be the offensive coordinator for Detroit next year. I think he's going to get a big offer from somebody and probably no matter what happens with Detroit's end of the season, end up somewhere else. 808 KNBR is the number to call. Jeff, Nick, Rudy, Tim, George, Michael. See all you guys waiting on the line. We will get to your calls. See a lot of you guys messaging on the YouTube chat. We'll get you the injury report when we come on back. Niners fall to the Seahawks in what feels like a backbreaker for the season, 10 games in. Only here on the Sports Leader.
I can be a lot better. I feel like I can be a lot better. You know, to miss time with an injury is always tough. It's not an excuse, but I know I can be a lot better. I feel it. It's coming. I just got to get rolling.
Was it Christian McCaffrey there talking about getting rolling for this 49er offense? Today, McCaffrey had, really no explosive plays. We talked about this, the longest play of the day offensively for the Niners. Jauan Jennings, a 22-yard catch. McCaffrey on the day, 19 carries for 79 yards. He did catch a few balls, 4 catches for 27 yards in the receiving game. Let's get to the injury report sponsored by Habas Law. They'll fight to make it right. Visit habaslaw.com and by Mike Council Plumbing. When you need plumbing, think green and go with Mike Council Plumbing at mcplumbing.com. The one that stands out, and I don't know what the impact would have been on the final drive, but when Geno Smith is saying after the game he felt like it was angels in the outfield, that there was no pressure on him, I might have had something to do with Nick Bosa not being out there, who left the game with an oblique injury, and it did not look good. Larry Krueger said at the podium today he had a tough time getting up there to talk to the media, had a tough time getting down from the podium, said he really was not feeling good, that he was in some pain. So I'm a skeptic that he'll even be good to go with an oblique injury for next week in Green Bay. JD, any other injuries of note in today's game?
Yeah, there were. Jacob Cowing's got a concussion. That's another one. Renardo Green had a finger injury. He left the game and ended up coming back in the game. And Tatum Bethune also had a knee injury that he left the game and got ruled out and didn't come back.
That's your injury report for today's game. Niners lose to the Seahawks 20-17. Let's go to Jeff in Concord. Jeff in Concord, you're on the Sports Leader. What's going on, man? Jeff in Concord.
Can you hear me?
I got you, bro.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you, Jeff.
Great. Yeah, you guys kind of stole my thunder, and so did Renee. First of all, I was gonna ask you guys. Of course, Purdy, only gets sacked twice, but he's been running for his life the entire season, and I think that's because you don't have a head coach and a GM that value drafting offensive linemen. And it's clear because if you're going to re-sign Ayuk and you already got Samuel on that long-term deal, you didn't need to draft a wide receiver in your first-round pick. But that being said, also there's the creativity is lacking again. And, I like Kyle Shanahan. I like what he's done for the organization. But I'm telling you, if there's a guy that I wouldn't mind the only guy I wouldn't mind seeing replace him is Ben Johnson in Detroit. Look at what they're doing. And the final thing that I wanted to say is that, when you're going to be down, when special teams is most likely going to let you down, then you need the offensive defense to be perfect. And it's always one or the other that's always letting them down. And I would just, hope that they can address the special team situation at some point in the offseason and address the offensive line situation at some point. And, maybe call Ben Johnson if things are getting a little stale here. They certainly aren't stale in Detroit, judging from the scoreboard. And that being said, I also wanted to see what Renee was saying. I mean, McCaffrey is a great running back, but he's also a great receiver. And he has the ability to be like a mini Cooper Kupp out of the slot. And to me, Mason's running around. He's still 5th in the NFL in rushing. You got 2 diamonds there, and you're only using one. And for the life of me, especially with Ayuk out, I can't fathom why they're not using them both. Thank you guys so much.
I appreciate the call. Again, it's week 10, week 11, I should say. I really don't think, and this is going to frustrate people, nobody's going to believe that Kyle Shanahan wouldn't be here next year. And would it shock anybody if I told you that the Niners average more yards per play than the Detroit Lions? The Lions, and now again, a lot of this is going to change after today. Entering week 11, the Lions put up 52 points today. The Niners were only scoring 6 fewer points a game than the Lions were. Now, 6 more points would put you at over 30 points a game, which is where the Lions are. They put up 52 today. They've had a couple of massive performances. They're also an indoor team that's played 3 outdoor games or will play 3 outdoor games all season long. The Niners are playing a much more difficult schedule than the Niners are than the Lions have this year. I'm not making excuses. I look at what the Niners have done this year, and they're top 10 in offense in almost every category. It's gone really, really badly this year. And I know the Lions have lost Aiden Hutchinson, but no team in football with the talent the Niners have, we say they have more talent than anybody. I don't know that anybody's lost as much talent as the 49ers have. I know that things are problematic right now, but to me, a lot of this is about the depth that is perceived depth that isn't really there right now.
Well, and we're seeing it each and every week.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the thing that I harp on all the time, which is just the margin for error is not the same.
No.
They have to play more consistent football over 60 minutes, a higher percentage of the 60 minutes. You have to be locked in and playing well. And the 49ers are not doing it, but they're also, when they're not doing it, they're not getting away with it like they did in the past because they'd be way ahead. And if a team scores a touchdown on you or scores 10 points, but you're up 24, then you're still up a couple of touchdowns, and it's not a big thing.
Yeah, and the 49, I mean, at least for these conference games, they've had the fourth quarter leads. And, they end up losing football games. I mean, you have to be able to close football games out. I mean, it can only be said that one way. I mean, you got to lead in the fourth quarter, especially if you're at home.
The 4-minute offense you talked about is something that stands out because the play calling on that last drive was not something I don't think anybody's happy
I mean, you
with.
can't go 3 and out. Well, I guess it was 4 and out.
But they got a first down on the first play, which is okay. Keep running the ball. That's okay. Then they run it again. Then they throw
run it 3
twice.
times.
They throw it twice.
Well, at least getting field goal. I mean, I was hoping maybe field goal range.
I said make them burn a time. Make the Lions burn something.
I mean, not punt the ball. And then the punt was whatever the punt was.
They didn't have a returner back there, and they punted in the end zone. I mean, they hit like the 4 end over end.
Well, like the caller was talking about special teams, and, that's probably not a big thing. But to me, it felt like it was big. I mean, you had an opportunity to kind of pin them down, and you kicked the ball in the end zone.
By the way, can we just shout out real quick? We talked before the game about having them put more starters on special teams. Mason was back there to return a punt, and he muffed it. Bounced out of bounds. But I was like, oh, nice. They got Mason back there and just right through his arms. Let's go to Rudy. Rudy was at the game. Rudy, at the game, you're in the sports leader. What's up, man?
Yeah, I think that there's got to be a little bit more conversation about Shanahan. I'm just not really pleased, and I don't think anybody is, with their productivity inside the red zone. And this has been a problem, just not this year. It cost us a Super Bowl last year, and quite frankly, it cost us a Super Bowl the first time around against Kansas City because our inability to score touchdowns and giving field goals instead of 7 points. And I look at Kyle, and I see the offense. If you notice the offense between the 20-yard lines, very few times do you see receivers outside the numbers. That offense is bunched up. It doesn't create horizontal stretch. You don't get throwing lanes. And I just see him becoming extremely predictable. And I'm starting to wonder if maybe it is a time for him to get somebody outside of the organization who's an offensive coordinator to call the plays. And again, you just mentioned it, but that execution on the 4-minute offense was absolutely atrocious. Those mistakes are something you see at a high school. And today to see how they executed in the 4 minutes offense, it just doesn't look like they're being coached the way they should. And it's just getting very frustrating. And again, this isn't something that's just surfacing this season. It's been a problem, and Kyle needs to get more creative down inside the red zone. You look at Andy Reid and what he does with the Chiefs when they get down there, somebody's always wide open because that is just offensive creativity.
Well, I would counter what you're saying and saying that, you can call one game, and I'm not going to look at one game in the Super Bowl. They had a 10-point lead. They held Patrick Mahomes to 19 points. If you told me that going into that game, I said the Niners win that game based on how much they scored last year. They were the best team in football last year in red zone attempts and percentage. I don't know how you can dispute that. They scored nearly 70% of the time they got to the red zone last year. It's not there this year. I do appreciate the call. We got to run. But again, honing in on one game and saying, well, that's a problem year to year to year. It cost us the game. You can also say that the muff punt cost you a game last year, and Ray McLeod not being able to pick it up after Darrell Luter gets pushed into him. You can also say that Christian McCaffrey fumbling on the opening drive when they're driving towards the end zone cost them while George Kittle's talking smack on the outside. So there are a lot of factors. Nothing is going to come down to one thing, and I'm not convinced that after the 49ers have been a top 10 offensive yardage team, yards per play team, and points team this year, to say that Kyle is not the guy. I know we're frustrated. I know the injuries are a factor here, and I also understand that the play calling in some of these situations, late and close, have been the biggest issue for him. So my whole thing is it's maybe not about play calling. It's about understanding what has to happen in those specific situations. 808 KNBR is the number to call. We'll get you a post-game player interview. We got a post-game interview. We got a player of the game to talk about, a drive of the game, and we'll get you what's on tap. Niners fall 20-17. I'm telling you, I know we're going back and forth on this. We're all pissed. I promise. We're all in the same boat here. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you from Levi Stadium. 20-17. This one stings at the hands of the Seahawks on the Sports Leader. Adam Copeland, Super Bowl champion, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you following a Niners 20-17 loss, just 17 points scored at home against the Seattle Seahawks, who marched down and ripped their hearts out, get night-nighted by, man, that was tough. The nighty night from Geno Smith marching into the end zone there, an 80-yard, 11-play drive in about 2.5 minutes when the Niners had a chance to put it away with under 4 minutes remaining, and they ended up punting it away, and it wasn't a good punt. Just didn't work out well. Let's go to our post-game interview today, sponsored by the Hamburg Union Square Hotel, San Francisco's oldest family-owned hotel. Our post-game interview today will go out to the podium. It's Kyle Shanahan, 49ers head coach. Here's what he had to say.
What transpired?
Just extremely disappointed. Thought we had a chance to put him away a number of times throughout the game. I thought the penalties we had on a number of drives just killed us. I thought we had some good momentum, and then had a penalty that kind of ended the drive on 2 big drives that cost us points on both of them. Still should have put it away there on that last drive, and had every opportunity to, and missed a couple opportunities to do that. And when we did that, we gave them a chance, and thought our defense played great all game until that last drive. But let them hang around, and when you let people hang around, that's what happens.
Offense possession before the very last one there. You had a 4th and 6, I think, and then they called timeout, and then it seemed like there was another stoppage of some sort. We didn't get an explanation. What happened there?
Yeah, I thought they called 2 timeouts in a row, so I thought there was a penalty. They said that they didn't on the second one. So
defense playing well, but when Geno Smith gets those 2 big runs at the end, is that a breakdown, or is that just him making great plays?
No, it's not a breakdown. It's just getting through the D-line. Everyone was in coverage. One was versus zone, the first one. The next one, I believe, was versus man. No one was open in the rhythm of the play, and you got to keep him in the pocket, and he broke through there, and especially on the touchdown run. Guys in man coverage had their backs to him, and can't let him out of the pocket there.
This issue was the same thing he was dealing with all week, and it just went?
No, I think it was a different one. Yeah.
This team has you've talked about second half surges being better in the second half. Hasn't quite happened yet. How disappointing is that? How can you put your finger on why it's not happening?
Yeah, it didn't happen because what I just answered in this game. We had our opportunities to win this game. I'm not going to talk about the whole second half. The second half just started of the season, if that's what you mean. And we won last week and lost this week, and thought we had every opportunity to win this game, and we didn't get it done. So we got to make sure we find a way to win next week.
Are you saying that Bosa had a separate hip injury?
Mm-hmm.
Is it the other hip? Is it?
Yeah, the other one. Not hip, oblique.
You impression that you haven't been able to get the running game too consistently. Is that just blocking there? Well, what are you seeing on not being able to kind of pop one?
I think we didn't break a big one today. I mean, last time versus them, I think we had a 174-yarder and 138-yarder. Today it was some solid running, but no big ones. They did a good job not letting us get through their secondary, and but when you don't get a big one, it's tough to get those yards.
Rock today.
Same as everyone. Did some good things and missed some things.
Jauan Jennings obviously had a pretty good game fourth quarter. How much do you guys miss George Kittle, though? It seems like whenever he's out of the lineup, it really does affect the offense.
Yeah, whenever you're missing good players, it's always a big deal. It's we went a little extra. We played Jalen Moore a little bit at tight end today. Something different to help with that. Thought Eric stepped it up and did good, especially showing up this morning sick and things like that. But yeah, it's George is a great player, so it always helps when he's out there.
Did you have any kind of setback, or was that just from the irritation?
No setback. Just couldn't go. Would have been too risky.
What would you say to the team about this loss?
Kind of exactly what I just said to you guys. Like, we had every opportunity to run away with that and put it away. Thought the defense did a bunch of that, especially getting that turnover in the third quarter. Felt real good about going in and scoring, and we couldn't overcome the penalties. It happened on 2 of our drives that cost us points, I think, at the end of the second half, and also in the beginning of the third quarter. The other drive in the first half, the other punt. We had the turnover on that one drive in the first half, but it's when you have opportunities to do it and you hurt yourself with penalties and a few missed opportunities, you got to finish it there at the end. And I was disappointed because I thought the offense had every chance to do that, and we didn't get it done there. And
Bosa was having such a strong game up to the point of where he got hurt. How debilitating is it to look, for everybody to look and see their defensive player of the year standing on the sidelines when the game's in the balance?
I mean, we don't think about that in the moment. I mean, just like his question with George, helps when Nick's out there, especially on that last drive and stuff. But thought we had a couple opportunities to get to him. I think we did get a sack or 2 on that last drive, but him getting those 2 scrambles killed us.
He scrambled a lot in this game. Was he leaving the pocket prematurely, or were guys not getting open on those plays?
I mean, he's been scrambling every game all year. So sometimes it's because he has a lane, sometimes because someone's not open. I mean, it's a different one to every single play. There's never just one narrative on when he scrambles.
I think they mentioned that Bosa was able to play through the hip injury last week. Clearly, he wasn't able to play through
No,
it
was a different hip injury. Yeah, it was the other hip.
It was the other hip. My question is, the seriousness of this hip injury, do you think it would be like similar to Kittle's situation where he was able to kind of practice this week but wasn't able to go? Do you think it's the same for Bosa next week, or you're not so sure right now?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know anything but what I told you guys. It's hip oblique, and it's his other hip, and he couldn't return to the game, which means it was bothering him. So we'll see how he is tomorrow. Hopefully it's not too big of a deal, but that's all we really know right now.
Challenges, was they telling you upstairs that there was clear calls, or was it borderline even when you threw the flag?
I mean, no, you're not totally 100% sure. We felt pretty close to it. They went hurry up on both of them. And I thought it was too big of a down to risk it. I still believe that they were out, but you can't totally tell with the camera angles. And when it does go that way and you can't fully see it with the angles, they're not going to overturn it. That's it? All right, guys.
There you go. That was 49ers head coach Kyle Shanahan following the 2017 loss, and a lot of clarification on what's going on with Nick Bosa. They're calling it now an oblique, and it is the opposite side of the hip injury that he was already dealing with, so not a positive deal here for the 49ers. We'll talk more about this one when we come on back. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you till about 6:30 this evening. We'll get you the player of the game, the drive of the game, and what's on tap. More of your calls at 808 KNBR coming up next, only here on the Sports Leader.
So it's not a first down. It's third down at 11. Pressure. Purdy throws left. Catch by Jauan Jennings. Can he break enough tackles and fight? He's got the first down. Jauan Jennings did it again. He caught it shy of the yard to gain and would not go down. Third and Jauan.
Dude is special. Jauan Jennings today. 10 carries on 10 catches on 11 targets, 91 yards, and a touchdown. The long of the day, and this is something the 49ers did not have today, explosives and big yardage chunk plays. 22-yard reception was the longest of the day of any play for the 49ers, and the longest of Jauan Jennings. This one will make him our player of the game, sponsored by Bigelow Tea. Grab a mug and tea proudly. Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you. Let's go to Ed. Ed is on the phone lines. He's been waiting for a while at 808 KNBR. Ed, what's up, man? You're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, how you guys doing?
What's up, Ed?
Not too much. I know they were missing Boza, and that was huge, but I was a little disappointed, despite what Shanahan said, that they let the quarterback beat him essentially 2 plays in a row. I can't believe that happened. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. The second time, I'm not sure what happened on that play, but they should have been more prepared for a run. The other thing is the penalties. From the penalties the calls that I saw, they appeared to be good. But what bothered me was the fact that I don't think that they were called for one offensive holding penalty the whole game, and that sort of bothered me. So that's it. I'll take your answer on the phone.
Appreciate the call, Ed. Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks coming in one of the most penalized teams in football, and the 49ers should have won that or should have had the advantage on that front. And today they out-penalized the Seattle Seahawks to a tune of, what was it, JD? I don't have it right in front of me.
Yeah, no, I got it right here. It's 9 penalties for 54 yards for the Niners, and then 4 for 20 for Seattle. So it was a 9-4 discrepancy in terms of total penalties.
And I know people are talking about the defense because the final drive is just going to stick in your craw a little bit. Niners offense today, I thought, was effective in some scenarios. 7 for 11 on third down, 2 for 3 in red zone opportunities, though they go 2 for 2, do the Seahawks on their red zone chances. The Niners just didn't have, 1, enough red zone chances, and 2, they got outgained, and not outgained by like putting up 450 and outgained by 50 yards, 500 to 450, 277 to 289. The offense that won the game for them last week, when the defense wasn't all that great and made a bunch of mistakes, just did not help out today, Dennis.
Yeah, and you know, being a former defensive player, I mean, for the game to be on the line and you allow a team, not a good team, but you allow a team to drive 80 yards down the football field and win a football game. I mean, I don't care. I mean, the third down, fourth down was great, but it all falls in your lap as a defensive group. That was 80 yards. You drove 80 freaking yards down the field to win a football game. And that's the bottom line. I mean, as a defensive player, you got to take it on you. I mean, no Nick Bosa, whoever's out there, whatever it is, that's 80 yards that you drove. You let a team drive down the field and let the quarterback run twice to get a first down and then to get a touchdown, untouched. That falls on the defense. No matter what else you did the day, that last drive, it was up to you.
You had a lead and a chance to
win. You had it. You had an opportunity to close it out. Offense, you know, you had an opportunity, but a defense, you had that opportunity, and you let a team drive 80 yards down the football field.
Dave is in Larkspur. Dave in Larkspur, you're on the Sports Leader.
Hey, guys, I just want to say this. I never believed a head coach or any type of coaching really meant anything until last year when we lost the Super Bowl, when a head coach doesn't realize that, hey, look, you're going to take the ball first, and every 12-year-old kid growing up knows that you want last licks. And for him to not take last licks, he should have been fired. And then when he said that, hey, look, I didn't know the rules.
He didn't say that. He never said he didn't know the rule. I think you're misremembering. He never said he didn't know the rule. And I'm not going back to last year's coin toss of the Super Bowl.
But I'm going to lead up to
Kyle Shanahan.
I'm leading up to tonight. That is a head coaching mistake. Okay? A head coach doesn't make passes. He doesn't block. He doesn't run routes. He coaches. He leads. He knows what he knows things that I don't know if I'm a player. Okay? Now, tonight, when you're up by 4 and you get 2 first downs and there's 4 minutes to go, and guess what? You throw a pass on second down, on second and 11, and it gets tipped. Well, now you know that you got to throw another pass on third down, and now essentially instead of making it a, hey, Seattle with 1 timeout and 2 minutes to go.
I agree with you here.
And they get the ball on the 20-yard line.
Yeah.
Hey, guess what? I'd rather do that and have them do that in 2 minutes and score a touchdown than rather me go for a second down pass, which could be incomplete, which is going to now make me throw another third down pass, which will give them over 3 minutes.
Dave. I hear you. I appreciate the call. We got to run. Yes, the two passes on second and 11 and third and 11. I'm with you. And when it got tipped up, that's when I was really sort of freaked because it wasn't a great throw. I think it was to Debo over the middle. It might have been, and it was a tip up into the air. And I looked over at JD, who was sitting next to me in the press box, and I was like, what are they doing passing the ball right there? And then I was just nervous. Like, you get a ball tipped up in the air like that. It was a D lineman who had the first pick of the game in sort of the same situation, by the way, knocked up in the air by Akilla Witherspoon. Not a surprise he didn't pick it off himself, by the way, if we can riff just for a second. It's not something Akilla Witherspoon does, picks off passes. Anyway, I do agree with Dave there on that play calling. And to me, it's not even that you have to throw it on third and 11. I don't know why you can't run it on third and 11 there anyway. Why you can't run a little bubble screen there if you're going to do a passing play. Why you have to drop back and throw it to Jauan Jennings. I'm thinking the same thing. I would have ran it twice on second 11. I would have ran it again on third and 11. Make them burn a timeout if that's what you want to do, or if that's what they decide to do to keep more time. But again, the punt following that, I'm not going to boil it all down to that drive because the offense today I don't think was all that good. I don't think Brock was that sharp. They haven't been fantastic in the last couple of weeks, so they put up a lot more yardage last week and just didn't find the end zone, which has been a steady problem. The 3 red zone attempts in back-to-back weeks, that's what kind of eats at me a bit.
Yeah, for me, it's second and 11. I think you run it. Once you get to third and 11, I'm okay passing it because it's really your best shot there. At that point, if a running
to try
play
to get a first down.
Running play on third and 11, I think, is a give-up play at that point. You might as well try to pick it up and end the game that way or come close to ending the game at that point.
But they didn't throw it downfield. They threw it to the outside. It was like a little out pattern,
you know what it was? It was a hot, basically. Guys were coming, and he just dumped it to the hot man, and that happened to be short of the sticks. The play never developed. No. They got him out of the play before anything could happen, and the protection wasn't there, so he threw it hot, and hot was short of the sticks, and they had to punt.
Adam Copeland, Dennis Brown, John Dickinson with you from Levi Stadium. Everybody's frustrated. Everybody's pointing fingers at everybody, and that's what happens when you lose a game like this. Remember, Seattle was so mad at each other when the Niners were up in Seattle. They were fighting on the sideline. Today, they come back and rip the Niners' hearts out, and now you're getting push notifications from ESPN saying things like Seattle's marquee win and Niners' playoff hopes fading. It's going to be a long road if they can do anything. Their road to the postseason really was only through the NFC West, and it's looking a whole lot worse now as they sit behind every other team. Cardinals in first, Rams are in second, Seahawks are in third. We got more to come here from Levi Stadium. Drive of the Game is next on the Sports Leader.
McCaffrey the lone back. Brock is under center. Saubert and Debo are right. Jennings and Pearsall left. Play action. Brock gonna roll out left. Jennings wide open. Touchdown! San Francisco!
James, what a beautiful play design.
That was a play that resulted in a Jauan Jennings touchdown. He, by the way, he was our player of the game at 10 catches for 91 yards. By the way, his second game of the season with 10 catches and at least 90 yards and a touchdown. We'll make that drive, actually, the drive of the game, sponsored by El Cerrito Honda, more than just a car dealership. We're family. Niners found the end zone a couple of times today. The other one, a Brock Purdy rushing touchdown. But other than that, it was a quiet offensive day, just 270-plus yards for the 49ers on offense. Brock Purdy did not hit the 200-yard mark. You didn't have any play that went longer than 22 yards, and that is in large part why the 49ers lost this game, that and not getting a stop at the end of this one. We'll put a bow on this one. We'll get you what's on tap when we come on back. Adam Copeland, JD, and Dennis Brown hanging out with you here from Levi Stadium, ready to get out of here after the Niners lost 20-17, only here on the Sports Leader.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I think Leonard he had that big sack late at the end there. In the back end, we got to be stickier and understand the situation. Got to have it. Gino's going to come alive and want to extend the play, so we got to just be more aware in that situation.
That's the voice of Fred Warner, who got beat a couple of times on that final drive. Was one to throw one right past me, like jumped up into the air. I was like, that was unlike Fred to jump straight up and swing his arm right instead of being right on top of where that pass was going. 11 plays, 80 yards. Geno Smith takes the Seahawks on their final drive of the game to win this one, and that's the way it falls for the 49ers, the way the chips fall here. 5-5. They're now in last place in the NFC West. I think you had them at 10th place overall in the NFC. Is that right, JD?
Yeah, 10th in the NFC right now, tied with Seattle, 9, and the Rams, 8. So 8, 9, and 10.
But do not have the tiebreak over either of those teams
because they've lost.
They're 1-1 against Seattle, and they lost to the Rams, and Arizona's in first place.
Yeah, lost head-to-head to each of them, and split with Seattle, as you mentioned. And the 49ers, though, 1-3 in the division. Seattle got their first division win in this game to improve to 1-2. So 1-2 beats 1-3 with the split. And so that's how the 49ers find themselves in this spot.
Let's get to What's on Tap. What's on Tap is sponsored by Fieldwork Brewing Company with 8 locations around Northern California. Fresh beer is always right around the corner. We talked before the game that would 10-7 win you the NFC West. And you said, yeah, you think it could, but it means you have to beat all 3 of your opponents that you're going to see from the NFC West. Dennis, they already didn't do that. that was like 5 hours ago we were talking about that, and that already didn't happen. So now what you're looking at is having to win probably all 3 against teams like Buffalo, Green Bay, the Lions. I know Chicago's a team they have to play as well. But
Miami's in there.
Yeah, you're at the point now where, you want to make the postseason. Winning all but one game and beating your next 2 division opponents is really the only way to make that happen.
Yeah, and if we, people didn't want to say this was a must-win, but moving forward, every football game's a must-win now. Yeah. And you got 2 weeks on the road to 2 tough football teams. So, they're must-wins, and that's the way you got to look at it. I mean, each week is you got to approach it like it's a one-and-done thing because you need all these wins now. And then you still got a couple games in your division that you need to win. So, it's urgency now, right? I mean, this is when leadership kind of kicks in the locker room. I mean, it's for real now. And now you've dug yourself in a very deep hole. You're last in your division. So I don't know what the percentage is of getting to the playoffs being last in your division, but you can fix that by winning out. I mean, you have to win out now.
Yeah, everyone. I mean, I think they have to at least figure out a way to get one of the next 2, Green Bay or Buffalo, and then you got to come back and beat the Bears and Rams for sure. No excuses. Those 2 games here, you got to win at Miami, and you're going to have to win, I think, for sure at Arizona. I mean, maybe you can still take 2, but I think the 2 are Buffalo or Green Bay and maybe Detroit, but you may have to get 2 of those 3 when you look at the next 2 plus that one.
I feel like we've been here forever. I read What's on Tap, correct?
You did.
Thank you.
Yes.
My mind is not working for the rest of this evening, I don't believe. We're going to sign off here from Levi Stadium. Niners get the Packers next. Then they're at Green Bay next Sunday. Then they're at the Bills the week after that before they come on home to take on the Bears December 8th. And to your point, JD, we'll see what the month of December means, if anything at all, for these 49ers. I'm signing off here for John Dickinson, for Dennis Brown, the Hall of Famer. Thanks to our guys Kyle, Raph, and Ryan, who are back in the studio. I'm sure they've been working hard all day long, and I appreciate everybody who's helping out, and appreciate the callers for chiming in today as well. The sports will continue here on KNBR. We'll throw you over to the Sunday Night Football game already in progress. The Chargers are up 21-6 right now in Los Angeles over the Cincinnati Bengals. And you'll have tomorrow morning Murph and Marcus live from the big island of Hawaii for our big Hawaii getaway. I'll be back with you on Tuesday afternoon. I'm flying to Hawaii tomorrow morning. Until next week for 49er pregame, 49ers fall 20-17 at the hands of the Seattle Seahawks. More to come here on the Sports Leader.